verses has three sections or three parts, okay? And all these three parts, what is going to happen, what we're going to see is this: the multiplication, the multiplication, the, uh, the population of Israelites multiplying or growing or extending. It happened in three ways. Stage 1, verses 1 to 7, they multiplied because everything was good. They multiplied because everything was good. Verses 8 to 14, they multiplied even when there was struggle. They multiplied even when there was struggle. Then verse 15 to verse 22, they multiplied because somebody committed. So the first one, they multiplied because everything was good. Number 2, they multiplied because in spite of persecution or struggles. Third part, they multiplied because somebody committed. So these are the three sections we are going to study: 1 to 7, 8 to 14, and 15 to 22. So that's how we are going to look at this whole chapter. Okay? I gave you the outline of the whole book of Exodus, and then I gave you the outline of this one chapter. And what exactly is the meaning of Exodus? See, when you go to a building of this nature, you have that exit there, exit. Okay? Exit is the Latin word, Exodus is the Greek word of that word. That's all. Exit is Latin, Exodus is Greek. Exodus means go out or get out. So the whole book of Exodus speaks about how the Israelites went out of the slavery into God's presence called Shekinah. So that is the whole book all about. And if you look at the whole book of Exodus, it has 40 chapters. And 20th chapter, the middle point, is where God made a covenant with the Israelites. It's like a wedding vow. I'll be your God, you be my people. So that kind of understanding or covenantal relation was established at the 20th chapter. So that's the middle point. So having said that, I just opened my Telugu Bible. Let me, right. Now I'm reading from verse 1 onwards. Let me give one more small introduction. For us, the first 5 books, we use a plural word, first 5 books: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. But for Jews, they are not 5 books. It is one Torah. It's only one. It's only one. They take the whole as one thing. Okay? And for a Jew, though it is one Torah, it has 5 sections, 5 segments. Or if I have to use the language of a drama, it has 5 episodes. Okay? So these are the 5 episodes or 5 sections, 5 different parts in one book. That is the Torah, the law that God has given to the Israelites. This is the basis. So when you are going from one section to the other section, one episode to the other episode, what generally is done is this. For example, if you have a series, you have TV shows where you have these serials, when you are into the 3rd episode or 4th episode, what they do is this. For the first 30 seconds, they give a synopsis of what has happened and then go into the fresh one. So Genesis, this Exodus chapter 1, the first 6 verses is giving the synopsis of what has happened in the previous book. Okay? If you read from Genesis chapter 45 to 50, it is 6 chapters. What is written in 6 chapters, Moses is writing here in 6 verses. Okay? I'll read those 6 verses and I'll be doing mostly a narrative way of explaining, like I'll dramatize, okay, so that it can be easily sticking into your heart. I'll be creating a drama scene here, and I will try to enact how various people spoke to each other, and from that, what we can learn from this whole book. I'm reading from Exodus chapter 1. These are the names of the sons of Israel who came to Egypt with Jacob, each with his household: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. Issachar, Zebulun and Benjamin, Dan and Naphtali, Gad and Asher. All the descendants of Jacob were 70%. Joseph was already in Egypt. Then Joseph died, and all his brothers and all that generation. So, these are the 6 verses. And these 6 verses we find from Genesis 45 to Genesis 50. 6 chapters. 6 chapters given in 6 verses. Now, let me tell you what happened in those 6 chapters. As you know, Joseph was sold by his brothers to the Midianites and finally to the Egyptians, and he was sold as a slave. And then he grew up to become the prime minister. For 7 years, there is a prosperity. And then came the famine. In the second year of the famine, these sons of Jacob, they come with a begging bowl to Joseph. They could not recognize Joseph. So, and you know the whole drama. So that drama went up to the 44th chapter. They could not recognize. Finally, in the 45th chapter, Joseph reveals his identity. And they wept and they did all those things. And then finally Joseph says, hey guys, can you do something? This famine is going to be there for another 5 years. So what you have to do is this. You can't always come here with a begging bowl and take things. You better come over here. I will speak to the Pharaoh, and we will give you a very fertile land. You can establish yourself because you are shepherds. You can take care of your sheep and all those things. So he says, and because his father was 130 years, please remember, he's 130 years. So he says, because daddy is 130 years and some of our sister-in-laws, they were having kids and some of them are carrying. They cannot walk all this distance. So what I will do is I will send you some donkeys. I will send you some carts so that they can sit in that and come. And I'll send some soldiers with you so that they can help you out. So you go. So finally they go. And probably Jacob was sleeping inside. He's 130 years old. And one of these two might have knocked the door. Either it would have been Reuben, the eldest, or Judah, who is acting as an elder at that time. So, because from 43rd chapter, it was Judah who was making all the leadership role, taking up the leadership role. So, he knocks the door, and one boy opens, and Grandpa, Judah, Uncle Judah has come. Then Jacob comes and says, hey, Judah, how are the things going on? Dad, do you know this? Do you know who is sitting there on the throne in Egypt? He's our guy. What do you mean by our guy? He's our guy. And there's no need to worry. We are not going to live a great life. What you are saying, man, I'm not able to understand. Papa, what I'm saying is this. The one who is sitting on the throne in Egypt is our guy. Can you make this clear? Who is that our guy? Dad, you believe it or not, it's our Joseph. And suddenly, Jacob goes into a kind of trauma and tears comes and says, guys, you told me 23 years ago that he died. You told me 23 years ago that he died. And you brought his coat with stains of blood. And I looked at it and recognized. And I wept for Joseph for nearly 5-6 months. And now here you come and say that he's still alive. Do you want me to believe this? Then Judah, Reuben says, Papa, we are so sorry. We told lie at that time. Now I can't trust you, man. I don't know whether you told lie that time or this time. How do I believe? Then Judah says, Papa, can you do one thing? Can you just come out? Why? You please come out. If you come out, you can start believing what I'm saying. Then Jacob is 130 years old. So he slowly walks and he looks, hey, what are these animals? Where are these donkeys have come? Who are those Egyptian soldiers? What are those carts? Papa, that's what I'm saying. This is your Joseph who sent all these things. And he wanted you to come to Egypt. What? Me? To Egypt? It's very tough, man. Why, Papa? Why? We are going to have famine for next 5 years. But you say you don't want to come? No, man. I have a commitment with somebody here. Who? The God of your grandfather Isaac. The God of your great-grandfather Abraham. What did he say? He said, this land I will give you. How can I leave this land? This is very important. Papa, you have to make a choice. Okay? Can you do me one thing? Can you take me to Beersheba? Beersheba? Can we take me to Beersheba? Why? Because there, many years ago, I built an altar. So what I will do is this. I'll pray and I'll ask God. If God asks me to go, I will go. Or else I will not go. He goes there. And probably he sacrifices few animals. And that God appears. And he speaks to Jacob and says, Jacob, you go to Egypt, man. What, God? Okay. I'm coming with you to Egypt. Oh, that's nice. Don't say don't go to Egypt. If you come with me, I'll go. Yeah, I'm coming with you. Let's go to Egypt. But I want to tell you one thing. You're going to die there. What? You told that you're going to give this land to me. Yeah, I'll give this land to you. You will die there, but you will be buried here. What are you meaning? Yeah, you will die there, but you will be brought here. You will be buried here. And your children will own this land. So it took some time for Jacob to understand. Then he says, well, God is asking me to go there, and he's also coming. He goes. At the age of 130, the father and son meets, and they live there in the land of Goshen. Now, 17 years have progressed. I'm now coming to chapter 47. 17 years have come. After 17 years, when Jacob was 147, he was so weak, lying on the cot. He calls, hey, can somebody come? I want to immediately talk to Joseph. Can somebody send a message to him? So finally Joseph comes. Papa, I heard that you are very sick and very serious and you sent an SOS. Yeah, sit here. Please be seated. Joseph, Papa, tell me, I'm going to die soon, man. Papa, the best doctors in Egypt are at our hand. Don't say that. No, ma. Death will come one day and I have to die. Please be seated. I want to tell you something. Just want to ask you this question. How many sons you have? Papa, I told you I have 2 sons. Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm old. What are their names? Manasseh and Ephraim. Good. Can you call those 2 sons? Both of them comes and he says, Papa, this is Manasseh, the elder one. And this is Ephraim, the younger one. Okay, can you make me to sit, please? He sits. He looks at them. Oh, this is Manasseh? Oh, this is Ephraim. So what he does is, he crosses his hands and lays them on both of them and he prays. Papa, your hands are crossed over. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. Ephraim is going to take over. Your younger one is going to take over. Joseph was not at all comfortable, but it's over. But that's what he blesses. And he says, Baba Joseph, yes, Papa, I'm going to give you 2 portions. One to Ephraim and one to Manasseh. And all of your brothers will get 1. You got the double portion. That means you are my chosen successor, the firstborn. So that's chapter 47. 48, he calls all the other sons and he blesses. And then again he calls Joseph and he says, Joseph, can you give me your right hand? Okay, Papa, take this. Can you keep your right hand under my thigh? Papa, why? Please, can you keep it? Can you keep it under my thigh? Okay, Papa. Tell me, what should I do? Well, I'm going to die. How many times you want to tell the same thing, I'm going to die? Yeah. But you need to promise me by keeping your hand under my thigh that when I die, you're not going to bury here. You're going to take me to Machpelah, the place your great-grandfather purchased to bury his wife Sarah, where we buried him there. We buried your grandfather Isaac there. Where I buried my wife there. You must bury me there. So after Jacob died, Joseph walked all the way along with all his brothers and buries Jacob and comes back. Now we are coming to chapter 50. So one after the other, all the sons started dying. Joseph is the 11th one. After Joseph is Benjamin. Probably Benjamin died little earlier to Joseph. Joseph is now 130 years old. So he calls his kids and grandchildren and tells them, hey, come, I'm going to die soon. What? Yeah, I'm going to die soon. But I want you to do one thing. Yeah, tell me. After I die, somebody else, should we make a pyramid? No. No pyramids. After I die, you should not bury me in this ground. What? Yeah. You have to put me in a suitcase and keep it there. Why? Why? One day, God will take you all from this land to the land that was promised to us by Him to our forefathers. When you go there, don't leave me here. That's where Genesis chapter 50 ends. 400 years after that, when the Exodus takes place, Moses carries that suitcase, which has the bones of Joseph, and he gives to Joshua, who carries it across Jordan and crosses Jericho, comes to a place called Shechem. That's where a piece of land was purchased by Jacob 500 years ago, and they bury Joseph there. And today, you can find the tomb of Joseph in Shechem. So why did I give the whole story? To give you a kind of a teaser. What we are reading is history. How God dealt in the history. So this is how we go at the 6 verses. Now the 7th verse is very critical. That's where we are going to learn a huge lesson here. Verse 7. But the people of Israel were fruitful and increased greatly. They multiplied, and you underline that word, multiplied. They multiplied and grew exceedingly strong, so that the land was filled with them. If at all you want to learn, or if at all you want to know how many people there were actually, in verse 1 to 6 we found out 70 people moved into Egypt, only 70. But by the time verse 7 has come, they have become 2 million. 2 million. From 70 to 2 million, 20 lakhs. So that's a huge thing. How did this all happen? What is this concept of multiplication? Do you know the first commandment God gave to Adam and Eve when He created them was this: you multiply. Definitely they multiplied, but with all useless people. So He had to kill all of them through the flood. And in Genesis chapter 9, He again spoke to Noah and said, you multiply. And he also multiplied, again with useless people. The third time, He called Abraham, and He never said, you multiply. He said, I will multiply yours. But Abraham, what he did was this. He had 2 kinds of multiplications. His multiplication and God's multiplication. His multiplication is Ishmaelites, and God's multiplication is Israelites. So for the past 4,000 years, we have the war between God's multiplication and our multiplication. That's how the whole story goes. And God speaks to Isaac, I will multiply your progeny and give this land. And God spoke the same thing to Jacob also. So God wanted to multiply the people, and God provided that fertile land and great freedom and all the facilities so that they might grow. So that's history. Simply, I read the history. Now, how should I take it into my life? What lesson I can learn? No, I can look at myself and say like this: God, it's been your grace, it's been your goodness that you have given me several opportunities to listen to your word and grow in you. I've been given. And you all have been given. Now my question is this: God gave opportunity to the Israelites to grow up. God also gave you opportunity to grow up spiritually, to grow up biblically, to grow up in the Word. My question is, how much we have grown? When God has given the opportunity, have we utilized it? God has given us time. God has given us talent. God has given us opportunity. And what have we done? I'm so happy that you are all well educated. You know how to read. You know how to read in between the lines too. But how much of that opportunity has been grabbed? How much of that opportunity has been utilized? God gave us opportunity to grow up, to multiply. Have we grown up? Is the question we have. Sorry. And now, I'm looking at verse 8. Can you look into your Bibles? That's very important because that's where the twist comes. There are certain verses that give you the twist. Verse 8. Now, that's the twist. Now there arose a new king over Egypt who did not know Joseph. Now, what is the twist I'm trying to give is this. See, when you join a course in the sense an academics or whatever it is, you have been given a time slot to learn. 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. At the end of 3 months or at the end of 6 months or at the end of 1 year, they say, now your training is over. Now we need to check how much have you learned. Got it? Now we want to grade your learning. We want to give you a certificate. For us to give you a certificate, we need to give you a test. You need to take a paper. You need to work out. Even in your regular schooling, you go to school for 8 months, 9 months, and then comes the final test, the final exam, where you have to give your paper and say, yeah, this is how we have scored. Now, in the same way, God has given us time. God has given us opportunity. At one point, God says, well, I have given you enough time. I have given you enough opportunity. Now let me test. Let me test. I know some of you are into that second phase. Some of you. You have your own challenges. Why you are worried about those challenges? Why you are not able to take those challenges? Let me tell you one thing. People who are well prepared, they want the test to be taken so that they can go to the next level. People who are not prepared, they don't want to take the test. To which category you belong? To which category you belong? Now, there was a situation that has come which says there was a king or Pharaoh who doesn't know Joseph. So what he tried to do, and he said to his people, behold, the people of Israel are too many and too mighty for us. Come, let us deal shrewdly with them, lest they multiply. See, God wants to multiply them, and this fellow says, I don't want to multiply them. See their multiplication. So this fellow is in direct war with God. Please try to understand. God wants to multiply. He wants them to multiply. But this man says, no, they should not multiply. They should not grow. They should be subdued. So that's the intention. And if war breaks out, they join our enemies and fight against us and escape from the land. So that's the whole situation. Now, let me apply it to our context. Whether you are living in the West or you are coming from the East, particularly India. Now, let us look at these two nations and try to draw some examples. Let me first draw from India. See, India got the gospel before America was born. You know that? You are our grandchildren, not even sons and daughters. As far as gospel is concerned, Americans are kids. Because we have Apostle Thomas coming to India, Apostle Bartholomew coming to India. There were two apostles who came to India very early. In 46, Bartholomew came. In 52, Thomas has come. But Bartholomew could not make much inroads. He could hardly preach in few places in Gujarat, and he was killed. But Thomas was there for nearly 20 years. He did a lot of work. One emperor and 6 kings were baptized by Thomas. The Emperor Gondoparas, who ruled the whole of India, which was at that time called Parthia, was baptized by Thomas. India at that time was a Christian country. But slowly it moved away. It moved away. It believed in several gods and goddesses, and which is now in a different concept. But again, if I go back 200 or 300 years ago, several missionaries from Europe and West came to India to see that India might flourish. Particularly the Western missionaries came to India to provide two things which Indians never got. Number one is education. Number two is medicine, medical health. Because Indians were ruled by Brahmins. Brahmins believed that education and health is not for the lower caste people. It's only for the upper caste. So the other people were not allowed to go to schools. They were not provided medicine. But when these missionaries came, they started schools, they started colleges, they allowed the women to study in schools. They built hospitals everywhere. So that's what they did 200 to 300 years ago. And today, the government which is in power in India, it is now saying, what has the missionaries done to us? What has the Britishers done to us? Definitely, Britishers came to India for business, but not the missionaries. They gave us education. They gave us life. They gave us meaning. They gave us identity. But today, the government that is ruling, it denies all of it. That's what Pharaoh is doing. He denied what Joseph has done. If there was no Joseph, Egypt would have been wiped out, along with all other nations. Just because of one man, a whole nation was protected. And nobody can deny it. But this Pharaoh denied that. The same thing is happening in India. Now, coming to US, the Constitution of US is built on Bible. In God we trust. And today, the one thing they want to throw out of their constitution or their education or their moral conscience is the Bible. It is removing the foundations. My friends, the whole world is like that. We have lost the moral sense. We have lost our roots. We have been uprooted, whether you are in the West or in the East. It's the same concept. And whoever is ruling today, they use the words, they speak the language as if they have completely obliterated the past. So a Pharaoh has come who doesn't believe in Joseph. And we are living in an era. We are living at a time when the world has forgotten the Creator. And we have created our own world. And they don't want the Christians to grow. They don't want Christ to grow. This world has a calendar, the Gregorian calendar, built on one person called Jesus Christ, before Christ and Anno Domini. And what these people said, we will not have it. We will remove before Christ. We don't want Christ to be in the center. He is not the centerpiece. We want to create our own Babel. We want to create our own world. So that's the situation. We don't want that to grow. Let me tell you one thing. Recently, one Hindu fundamentalist asked me this question and said, "Sir, I read in the newspapers and in other analytical articles, the whole Western world is leaving Christianity. and the Christianity is coming down. I said, you're partly correct. You're partly wrong. He said, what I am correct? You're correct that the Western world is denying Christ. But you're wrong that Christianity is going down. What do you mean by that? Yes, Western world has denied Christ. The Eastern world is holding on to Christ. Christianity is growing in China. Christianity is growing in Middle East. Christianity is growing in India, not in the West. I think this is the time we need to get missionaries from the East to the West. The world has gone upside down. So that's the situation. So I see pretty much the same what has happened 3,500 years ago in Egypt is happening today to the whole world. Okay? And let me go further. Therefore, they set taskmasters over them to afflict. I'm leaving 11th verse. Therefore, they set taskmasters over them to afflict them with heavy burdens. They built for Pharaoh store cities, Pithom and Ramesses. Pharaoh got a great idea. Hey guys, these wives and husbands, if they dwell together, they always produce children. So what we'll try to do is this, we'll separate them. So some people might have asked how we are going to do it. Simple. Take all the men, take them into the desert, have a tent there, help them to live in that tent, and we'll build big storehouses. It will take 2 to 3 years. For 2 to 3 years, the men will not meet their wives, so they will not have children. Men will not be at home, so there will be nobody to take care of their cattle. Men will not be at their home, so nobody to till their ground and agriculture and all those things. So no more new children, and the existing children will die because of not having food and all those things. He thought like that. He thought like that. Today, how many kinds of new rules have come to curb Christianity? To curb Christianity. I was told by one of my friends here, it's no problem to have the elephant god Ganapati in your office, but it will be a problem if you have a cross there. You'll have a problem if you have a cross there. The world is against Christ. That you should understand. The war is between Christ and the Antichrist. Whoever is against Christ, I don't mind. That's the war. So every human being has to take one side. You can't be a neutral. You can't be a neutral. On whose side you are. If you take the side of Christ, definitely you are bound to face an attack. You are bound to face an attack. So that's what it's all about. So the Pharaoh himself comes into the picture and says, no, I will not allow. What an irony it is. What an irony it is. In India, 10 states have an anti-conversion bill. Over 200 churches burnt in Manipur. Over 1,000 people killed in Manipur. For the last 3 months, there is no internet there in Manipur. Narendra Modi wants to come to US and speak to the Speaker of the Assembly, asking for an explanation why the Hindus are persecuted in America. It's an irony. Only 3 states in America have 2% Christians. Only 3 states. And there is not even one place where persecution has taken place on Hindus here in America. But he wanted to come and ask here. Can you see the world, where it is going? Whether you belong to India or to US, you cannot get away from this. And I can't understand why the Western mind not able to understand. Are they sold out? Have they become blind? Are they victims to Satan? I can't understand. Why such a thing is happening? And verse 12. But the more they oppressed, look at this verse. It starts with but. The more they oppressed, the more they multiplied. That's the word I want to pick up. They multiplied when everything was good. They multiplied even when there is an oppression. That's what happens. Because that multiplication is not your achievement. That multiplication is God's gracious provision. That you should understand. It is not what you have done. It is what you have received by faith. So when they were oppressed, they started growing. The fastest growing church in the world is in China. The second fastest growing church in the world is in Yemen. Today, where the persecution is at peak. So, multiplication is not the achievement of the church. It's the fruit that the church could get because God graciously provided. So, but the more they oppressed, the more they multiplied, and the more they spread abroad. And the Egyptians were dread of the people of Israel. It's almost like, what can we do? They were hitting their head. We tried our best. They're growing. We tried our best. They're growing. I want to give a personal example. I'm so sorry. I don't know how far you can understand, but I'll try to put it in simple words and I'll make you to understand. On Jan 1st, I was preaching a message. The message is for 1 hour, 7 minutes. And I was preaching from 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 1 to 12. And my message was how to have hope amidst horrible situation. That was my message. So as an intro, I said like this: India is going to have a kind of a genocide. That's what most of the newspaper says. Even the American analysts believe that there is going to be a genocide in the next 2 years. So I made a statement like that for 42 seconds. Somebody has picked up those 42 seconds clipping and they trolled it everywhere in the social media. It happened on Jan 1st. Finally, on Jan 9th, I got a call from the police station asking me to come to the police station and I'll be behind the bars because of the statement I made that there is going to be a genocide. So I immediately contacted my lawyer and I said, what should I do? He said, don't move because from 12th to 17th, you have public holidays. They want to put you behind the bar and you will not get a bail. And all these 6 years, they're going to give you all kind of trouble. So for one day, I just did not respond. But on finally 12th, I went to the police station. So by that time, we understood the central government want me behind the bars. They want to take me as an example and tell all the Christian preachers, hey guys, if you preach against us, this is what is going to happen. And it's God's provision. The central government and the government in Hyderabad, they don't go along. The Hyderabadi government, they were supporting me. The daughter of the chief minister of Telangana, she personally called the police and she said, if that fellow is behind the bars, be careful. So it is God who provided. So that's a long story. Finally, on Jan 19th, I was called. There were 5-3 officers. They started questioning me. I gave very bold answers. I said, whatever I spoke, it's from this newspaper. I showed them. If you want to sue, you sue them, not me. I just read that. So finally, he said, okay, you can leave. Now, this is the whole issue. As I was getting up, I want to give the shake hand to the police officer. I shook hand and I stood up. There was a gunman behind the police officer. He was the security of the police officer. He immediately came to my side and he said, can I take a selfie with you? And the officer looked at him and he said, what? He said, I'm a fan to him. That's what he said. And this is what exactly happened. I could understand this word at that time. When he said like this, this police officer, he hit his head and he said, what should I do now? See, when you stand for the Lord, when God is on your side, the opposition has to hit their head, that's all. I've seen it. I've seen it. So this is what the answer is. And the Egyptians were dread of the people of Israel. So they ruthlessly made the people of Israel work as slaves and made their lives bitter with hard service in mortar and brick and in all kinds of work in the field. In all their work, they ruthlessly made them work as slaves. So this we understand, they multiplied amidst persecution. They multiplied amidst prosperity. That's number one. They multiplied amidst persecution. That's number two. Now let's come to the verse 15. This is the third segment, which has a lot of application to our life. But before I go to the third segment, let me tell you one thing. People who grew well when things are good can grow well even when the things are against them. Do you get it? When God has given you an opportunity to grow, when God has given you a peaceful atmosphere, if you are able to enjoy the presence of God when things are peaceful, you will be able to enjoy the presence of God when the things are in trouble. A lot of Christians, they come to Christ only when they are in trouble, because they are not used to experiencing the presence of God in peaceful atmosphere. They cannot experience the peace of God in troubles. But these people, they were growing. Now I'm coming to the third segment. Then the king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, one of whom was named Shiphrah and the other Puah. He called for two ladies and he said, hey guys, can you find two midwives, and the best ones, and bring them here? Finally, they go and call these two women, and they say, Madam, Pharaoh is calling. They probably were very much frightened. Hey, Pharaoh is calling. What did we do? No, don't worry. He's calling you. So they come with a lot of fear, and they stand before Pharaoh, and Pharaoh says, you're midwives. Yes, sir. What are your names? Sir, my name is Puah, and her name is Shiphrah. Oh, you have Hebrew names. Yes, sir. We have Hebrew names. We are Hebrews. I heard very good things about you. Thank you, sir. I heard that you are very good midwives. Yes, sir. Both of you, how many cases you can handle in a week? Both of us, maybe 10 cases. Oh, 10 cases in a week? That's 500 in a year. Yes, sir. 500 in a year. And all of them are successful? Mostly all of them are successful. Very good. Very happy of you. Thank you. Guys, I want to give you an offer. Yes, sir. Definitely. Well, these women, when they are into their labor pains and when they are on that table, they're screaming, shouting, pushing the baby out. When the baby comes out, who is the first person to see the baby? Sir, it's we. Who is the first person to know the gender? Sir, it's we. Good. Even before the mother, you know what gender is the baby. Yes, sir. So what you have to do is this. As the baby is coming out, what all you have to do is you use your big hand and just choke the baby. The baby will die if it is a baby boy. And you tell them, oh, the baby died. You're not going to lose anything. For every death baby, I'm going to give you money. That's the offer. And if you don't kill, I'm going to take care of you. So there was a threat, and there was also some redemptive points. And let me tell you one thing. This Pharaoh created a divide in the church. He created a divide in the Israelite camp. These people are not from outside Israel. They are from within Israel. Now, what I want to draw from that is this. The biggest enemy in the church is not from outside, but from inside. It's from inside. The problem in Manipur, it was not created by outside people. It was created by inside people. They know where the churches are. They know who the missionaries are. They know where they hide. That is why they pinpoint and they burn them. They are from within. My friends, as Christians, I want to tell you one thing. Your number one enemy is not a Hindu or a Muslim. He will be usually a fellow believer. That's how the divide comes. That's how the division takes place. It's very easy to handle if the opposition is outside. It's very difficult to even recognize if the opposition is within. So, when you serve as midwives, verse 16, to the Hebrew women, and see them on birth stool, if it is a son, you shall kill him, and if it is a daughter, she shall live. So 3 women were called, and they were given this offer. They were threatened. Now, we have all kinds of threats today. We have all kinds of threats. We have all kinds of issues. We have all kinds of challenges. You can't teach children their gender. You can't teach their children their faith. Every kind of obstacle is there to bring our children in the right way. Every kind of rule. In a way, in those days, they killed the children physically. In today's world, they are killing them morally. Am I right? They are killing morally. You are only raising animals with no moral sense. As a parent, you don't have any control on your children. They are like dogs, they are puppies, they are cats and kittens. Just throw them away. They live by their instinct. No intelligence, no teaching, nothing. Let them live by instinct. Whatever they feel, whatever they think. We are killing children morally. It's better to kill them physically. As children, they will go to heaven. But if they are killed morally, we are creating a menace in this world. So that is what is happening. And then what these ladies do. Verse 17 again is a crucial one which has a turn. But the midwives fear God and did not do as the king of Egypt commanded them, but let the male children live. You have a choice. The choice to fear God or the choice to fear anything else in this world. There are only 2 fears. The fear of the Lord or the fear of the world. Which fear you have? These midwives, they feared God. They feared Lord. Lord, it is your children. We are belonging to you. We will oblige to you. That does not mean you become a rebel. That does not mean you are into a guerrilla warfare. You'll be like Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. King, long live. We honor you. We appreciate you. But we cannot bow down to that idol. As per your rule, we'll go into the fire. We are not rebellious here. But we can't do that. We can't do that. They did with the utmost honesty and humility. But they were very much forthright in saying what they are. Are we like that? Able to present the truth lovingly. With all humility. This is what I am. So these women, they feared the Lord and what they did. But the midwives feared the Lord and did not do as the king of Egypt commanded them, but let the male children live. When you have the fear of the Lord, you will do what God wants you to do. And when you do what God wants you to do, He will provide you a way. He will provide you a way. I was reading a biography by name T.S. Kuntam. I don't know how to read that name. He is a Portuguese. He's from Poland. He was preaching gospel, and one of the police officer was given the task of speaking to this guy to shut his mouth. So that police guy, officer, went to him and said, I'm going to give you 1 week time, and we will provide you a house, we'll give you a job, we'll give you a pension and all those things, but you should not preach. So after 7 days, I'm going to come. All these 7 days he was preaching. 7th day he said, well, 7 days over, what's your decision? He said, sir, all these 7 days I was preaching and I was asking God. And God was telling me like this, okay, if you stop preaching, how long will you be surviving? How long will they allow you to live? Will you be living forever? Then I realized, anyhow I have to die. It is better to die preaching than to die without preaching. So I decided to preach. This police officer doesn't have an answer. He said, I'm going to give you 2 weeks, and went away. Because he was given 2 weeks' time by the police officer, nobody was able to touch. He preached and preached. And after 3 weeks, he was provided an escape to come to US. He came here and he spoke in one of the biggest Baptist conventions, how God honored his decision to stand. This happened in 1983. It's not an old story. Very recently. Standing for the Lord. When you stand for the Lord, how God provides, we can clearly understand. Friends, this is not the time for us to listen to goody-goody messages. This is the time to get ready for a warfare. You are into the war. Either you are on the side of God or against God. There is no neutrality here. So the king called the midwives and said to them, hey, how long it has been that I gave you this offer? Sir, 2 years. 2 years? How is this guy who is 18 months still alive? How is this boy who is 12 months still alive? What have you done? Why you did not kill them? I told you to kill them. You did not kill them. So that's why this 18-month baby is here, this 12-month baby is here. How is it happening? Sir, we have to explain to you something. The Egyptian women are very, very slim, very, very typically living. The moment they are conceived, they don't leave the bed. They'll be always sleeping. The muscles are very much tight. But we, the Hebrews, even in the 8th month and 9th month, will be doing the hard work. Because, and that's the reason, our muscles are very loose. So when we go into the labor pain, it takes only 10-15 minutes for the baby to come out. For an Egyptian, they need somebody to help them, to push them, and all those things. For us, it happens so naturally. So we get the message that a particular lady is into the labor pains. By the time we reach there, she has already delivered. What should I do? And probably that answer is right. Probably that answer is right. Probably they are not telling the lie. That's what we see. The midwife said to Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women were not like the Egyptian women, for they are vigorous and give birth before the midwives come to them. Now, verse 20. I like this so much. When things are prosperous, they were multiplying. When there was a persecution, they were multiplying. And now here, so God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and grew very strong. See, this is the third time we are finding that word multiplied. This multiplication is because of the commitment of women. They are not doctors. They are not officers. They are not even senior nurses. They were only working under the nurses, midwives. Probably almost equivalent to a daily